Hello. Today I'm providing you with an update that I just got on my email because I get updates from the Attorney General's office here in Texas when there are items that come out for, uh, updates on cases and everything. This update affects our social media and also free speech and what is going on with that. So, I wanted to give you a brief update because, in light of what's going on with Twitter today, I found this to be interesting, and the timing I also think interesting. So, just pointing that out. So, let me go ahead and get over here and read this to you really quick because this is just basically what I got in my email from the Attorney General's office. And I want to read this to you really quick. Oh, 1 second. Let me take this down. So, as you know already, I'll use my own. I do not give advice, so please think for yourself and decide for yourself. Not all content is appropriate for children. And thank you for joining me as always. Let's get into this. All right. So, as you can see here, this is for immediate release this morning, October 28th, 2022, from Texas Attorney General.gov. It says, Paxton stands with Florida in fight against big tech. From Austin, Texas's capital, for those that don't know, Attorney General Paxton joined an Ohio-led cert-stage amicus brief before the U.S. Supreme Court defending a Florida law similar to Texas's HB 20, which is designed to ensure that individuals aren't silenced merely because big tech companies disagree with their opinion. The coalition of states is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to review the case after a lower court, the Atlanta-based U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, ruled against Florida. The brief notes the alarming rate at which social media companies have engaged in censorship, often against conservatives, and the direct threat that poses to the First Amendment. It also argues that in light of social media's growing presence as the predominant public square where citizens engage in lively and necessary disclosure, states that the constitutional right to protect Americans' access to these platforms. This brief follows a decision in a different circuit, the New Orleans circuit, the New Orleans-based U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, that affirmed the constitutionality of the Texas anti-censorship law, which Attorney General Paxton defended as part of his continuing efforts to hold big tech accountable. The system cannot work if the public lacks access to the means by which citizens may engage with each other. Censorship by social media companies thus poses a very real threat to effective self-governance, the brief reads. For that reason, states have passed or are considering laws to address the problem. Those state laws implicate the question of whether and in what ways the government may regulate or discourage private censorship. And then it says right there, to read the full brief, click here. So, as you know, that is, of course, what I do because I do want to see everything for myself. So, let's take this down and take a look at it. Okay, so here you can see this is the actual brief that has been submitted, not cemented, submitted. And it shows basically the case number 22-277 in the Supreme Court of the United States. Ashley Moody, Attorney General of Florida et al., that would also be all the petitioners, all the states, versus NetChoice LLC et al., which are the respondents. So I don't want to go through all the legalities, but it says here, brief of amici curiae, states of Ohio, Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Idaho, Iowa, Kentucky, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and Utah in support of the petitioners. So, those are the states that are all involved in this, and there are more that are coming on board every day. Let's go through this. This is a table of contents. I'll keep scrolling. This is 35 pages. These are all of the cases. With the first one here showing Biden versus Knight First Amendment Institute at Columbia University. Biden versus Knight First Amendment Institute at Columbia. Then you can go back through here. All of the presiding cases. Let's keep going. These are the statutes and rules. Other authorities included. Other cases that they reference. Okay, here is the statement. This is kind of long, so I'm going to read through this really quick and then skip through some points. I'll put this in the link so you guys can go read it all for yourself and review it or save it, whatever you want to do. It says, in the 17th century England, those hoping to print a book needed permission from either the Archbishop of Canterbury or Bishop of London. Those officials censored publications deemed contrary to the public good. For example, books contrary to the morals or to the truth of the faith. Richard C. Webb, Introduction to Milton, and I'm not going to read all that. In the 21st century, America, the First Amendment forbids government officials from engaging in this sort of censorship. Does it also bar the government from stopping censorship by private entities? That question arises because social media companies, which operate largely free of regulatory oversight, exercise immense power to suppress views with which they disagree. For example, Facebook, a platform that reaches more than 70% of the U.S. population, will remove speech that undermines certain beliefs. The question whether the First Amendment entitles social media companies to censor speech is immensely important. The interest is in the modern public square. Private companies operate that public square, and in doing so, they often decide who may speak and what ideas users may discuss. When platforms engage in such censorship, they undermine the free exchange of ideas that free speech protections exist to facilitate. And they threaten the development of important insights and discoveries, many of which begin as fringe views. Further, if social media companies were absolutely entitled to censor unpopular views, what is the limiting principle? May email providers, mobile phone companies, banks claim a constitutional right to cancel the accounts of anyone who sends an email, makes a phone call, or spends money in support of a disfavored political party, candidate, or business? The states are filing this amicus brief because they desperately need an answer to the question presented. The virtue of a democratic system with a First Amendment is that it readily enables the people to debate difficult issues, to persuade one another, and to change their laws accordingly. The system cannot work if the public lacks access to the means by which citizens may engage with each other. Censorship by social media companies thus poses a very real threat to effective self-governance. For that reason, states have passed or are considering laws to address the problem. Those state laws implicate the question of whether and in what ways the government may regulate or discourage private censorship. By granting certiorari and deciding this case, the court will provide guidance regarding which policies states may and may not pursue. The court should do so, and it should make clear that the First Amendment leaves the states with room to address censorship and the threat it imposes to open discourse. Okay, I'm going to stop it there. Here's a summary of their argument. Again, I'm going to scroll through here. This is 35 pages long. There are some very important things in here that I think everybody should go and see and read for themselves. You can skip over the cases if you want that they reference. If you're interested, look at the cases, because this is them giving the Supreme Court the actual precedent where these other cases have been won and direction has already been given by lower courts or even the Supreme Court. And so this should not be that much of a difficult case for the Supreme Court to rule on. And this isn't just one party. You know, there are those of you out there right now that can say whatever you want, and those that can't. But just remember, if you're one of the ones that can, at some point in time, you will be one of the ones that can't. So this needs to be equal. This needs to be fair. This is not about politics. This is about truth, our Constitution, our right to free speech, our right to debate each other, our right to find solutions together. Not in arguing and fighting and hatred and all of those horrible things. It's about just discussion so that we can find common ground with each other, and our country is a country full of love, full of generosity, full of beauty. We need to get back to that as a people. Let's not be manipulated. Okay, let's deal with issues together and find a solution for us all. For us all. Not just one side and not just the other. So I will put all of this in the description box. And I hope everyone is very blessed, having a blessed day. Remember, do not fear. There is so much fear-mongering right now. Truth is truth, but if you can't control what's right in front of you, that's what you need to fear. Don't worry about stuff you can't control. Be aware of it. Be knowledgeable. Use common sense. But most of all, use love. Use love. Use faith and love. And everything will be okay. I love you all. Thank you. Have a blessed